Now strap me to a rocket and light my fuse with the sparkler. This is exciting. Your first crack at a real theme park. Oh, I remember my first time. It was in Bangkok after the war. Or was it Singapore? No, wait. It was Cleveland.
It was upstate New York, Phil. Your father's cabinet of curiosities, remember?
Oh, I thought it was the Thrillinator. Whatever it was, I remember it like it was yesterday.
Management sims have always been able to cast a strange spell over me, in a way that almost no other genre can. I wouldn't say that they're my favorite genre or that I'm an avid fan that keeps an eye out for promising upcoming games. Hell, I wouldn't even say I play them all that often. Every now and again, though, I do pick one up and pour anywhere between a few dozen to a few hundred hours into it. From Football Manager to Jurassic World Evolution to even something relatively more obscure like Mad Games Tycoon 2. And every time I do, I'm reminded of where this all started for me. It started with Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, an absolute gem of a game that I spent so much of my childhood playing. It's the game that got me into the genre, and it's something I've been intermittently chasing since. That's why Park Beyond appealed to me as much as it did from the moment I first saw it, because like many others, I've been on the lookout for something that scratches that RCT itch for a while. And though I wouldn't say Limbic Entertainment's new theme park builder even comes close to touching those heights, I am happy to say without reservations that Park Beyond is an absolute blast, and that it's an experience that carves out a unique niche for itself. It works on multiple levels, both of which appeal to me greatly. It works as a solid theme park builder with all the complexities and mechanics that you'd expect to see in a game of this sort, from building rides and expanding your park to improving other facilities and chasing visitor satisfaction. Beyond that, it also succeeds in delivering something fresh and unique, thanks to its impossification mechanic, which lets you build rides, among other things, that defy all laws of physics and logic to turn your park into the most ridiculous, fantastical, over-the-top place that you could imagine. A game that focused exclusively on the first of those two categories would have been solid enough in my book as it is, so the fact that Park Beyond chooses to build on top of that with its own unique ideas and actually does it well, that isn't something I take for granted. On either level, what helps Park Beyond be as fun as it is are its customization mechanics and the level of options it provides in how to build and manage your park. On a fundamental level, you have a decent amount of options to pick from when deciding which shops, facilities, or rides to build in your park. Quite a few interesting prefabs are available for both flat rides and roller coasters, while when it comes to the latter, you're also free to custom build pretty much whatever you want, within reason at least. With shops and facilities, you can build a variety of food and drink stores, souvenir shops, washrooms for your visitors, and lounges for your staff, benches to sit on, and of course, plenty of decorations, both natural and artificially made. The level of options here is good enough as it is, but Park Beyond also gives you a great degree of control over how to personalize and customize almost every single one of these things. For rides, you can choose what elevation that you're building at, what music they play for the visitors, what their entrances look like, what speed the roller coasters launch at, and more. For shops, you can pick between a handful of themes for every single building on an individual level, decide what they carry in their selection of goods, and even decide the individual prices of every single thing they're selling. You can terraform the land however you see fit, you have a healthy selection of maps to choose from so you can build your park in whatever biome you want. And you can choose between a few themes for your park, including Wild West and Candyland. You can go into the nitty-gritties of the needs and wants of your visitors and really fine-tune your theme park experience that way. You can target different age groups as your primary audience. The game really does give you an impressive level of control over building your park, even if it isn't something we haven't seen before from games in the genre in the past. In fact, something like Planet Coasters offers far more. The customization mechanics really shine through when you're building your own roller coasters. Using different kinds of tracks and the freeform building mechanics, you can build almost anything you can think up, with all the loops, peaks and valleys, or twirling tracks that you want. Park Beyond also lets you tunnel your tracks through the mountains, the ground, and even bodies of water, so sections of your roller coasters can loop in and out of mountains, go underground before coming back up again, or speed through underwater tunnels. As you might imagine, building something vast and varied and complicated and then being able to sit in the passenger seat to experience it firsthand, that can be quite a lot of fun. Although the process of testing every roller coaster and making sure it works before being able to open it, that can be a bit tedious sometimes, even with the fast forward options. All of this is before you can even take the impossification mechanic into account. When visitors use the ride in your park, they generate something called amazement, with each ride generating different levels of amazement. Generate enough of that and you gain the ability to impossify not only every single one of your rides, but also every single one of your park shops and facilities, and even the staff that you've hired, and different varieties in all three of those categories get impossified in different ways. Impossify a janitor, and instead of a vacuum cleaner, they'll start carrying a flamethrower. Impossify an entertainer, and they'll start walking around in mascot costumes. Impossify a roller coaster, and it could do anything from shooting cars out of a cannon to making them temporarily defy the laws of gravity. Every flat ride also gets its own unique impossifications. The process of impossification is exactly as fun as it sounds, and generating the amazement you need to be able to impossify as much as the park as you can, that works as an excellent motivator to keep investing more time into building more. All of this is able to shine through in the sandbox mode much more than the campaign. Don't get me wrong, the latter is a pretty fun experience in its own right. It takes you from one map to another and gives you a variety of fun objectives to accomplish, while also serving as a solid primer on how to play the game and how to get to grips with its mechanics. There's also a charming cast of characters, even though they, and what passes for a story here, do perhaps get a bit more screen time than they should in a game like this. It's just that the campaign is much more structured and as such curtails some of the game's best elements. The freedom to build whatever you want and having the customization options to do it how you want. That is, of course, by design, but after playing through the first couple of chapters, I was beginning to feel the weight of the restrictions that came with that structure. Fortunately, you have the freedom to jump into sandbox mode whenever you want, which is what I did at that point, and it was a good call too, because once I'd become comfortable with the game's central loop and its mechanics, having the freedom to play it my way without any imposed restrictions allowed me to get a much better appreciation of the game's moment-to-moment gameplay. I just picked a map I liked, gave myself unlimited money, checked the option to have every single option and feature unlocked from the beginning, and I started building. That's where I've had the most fun with Park Builder, and it's where I'm going to have plenty more going forward. One major issue I have had with Park Beyond, however, is the controls. Now, it's worth noting that I played the game on a PS5, and obviously a game like this is best suited for PC. If I had played it on PC, I probably wouldn't have had as many issues, but playing on a gamepad instead of with a mouse and keyboard, I ran into plenty of issues with how confusing and hard to read and navigate the UI can be at times, or how finicky the controls can get when you need more precision. A few quality of life issues can also cause some frustration, like not being able to delete an entire pre-made house on one of the maps in one go, and instead being forced to delete every single individual element one by one. There were hundreds of components that collectively made up that house, and demolishing the whole thing was a bit of a nightmare. I also ran into a few issues that weren't necessarily control-specific. The text that appears in the game's UI, for instance, can be incredibly hard to read, and though some aspects can be improved by scaling the size, there are plenty of elements that the scaling doesn't apply to, like all of the tutorial pop-ups. I also ran into a few performance issues and some glitches, including pathing problems, being handed objectives that I had no conceivable way of accomplishing, the entrances and exits of custom-made rides deciding to stop working randomly, the game not reading that I had already completed some of my current objectives, and even a couple of crashes. Collectively, all of these issues combined with the console-specific control problems, they do add up, which is a shame because the core experience here is wonderful. It's wonderful enough, in fact, that even with these problems somewhat dragging the experience until Limbic Entertainment hopefully patches them out at least, I find Park Beyond a very easy game to recommend, especially for fans of the genre. It works on a fundamental level as a fun and addictive theme park builder and management sim, and then adds its own flair and spice on top with the impossification mechanic, which never stops being a delight. Is it the heir to the roller coaster tycoon throne? Probably not. But does it scratch that itch to a satisfactory level? Absolutely, it does. Hey, did you know that we at GamingBolt upload new videos every day? Stick around, drop a like, subscribe, and hit that bell, and let us know what kind of content you'd like to see in the future with a comment below.